gosh, it's hot. Hey everybody, welcome back. Today we're going to be talking about, well, something I kind of didn't want to talk about, but I understand the necessity of it. So I'm kind of wrestling with this. What I want to do versus what is culturally interesting. So I have to pick the second one to get the first one eventually. I can't just do my own thing and expect someone's going to follow me. That's like going into a cave all by yourself and expecting, well, someone will come save me. Not a good idea. So today we're going to talk about one of the popular Disney films of the past called Frozen. Not the second one, the first one. And I got to watch my youngest daughter grow up with this movie. Now, how else can I say this? I don't really like it. I understand it's good for maybe itty-bitty people, but besides that, the messages this movie has, as far as I can tell, are terrible, and I'm going to try to articulate how I came to that conclusion. Because I was thinking about this movie, and Disney does have some really good, like, hit or miss kind of deals. This one is a pretty big miss. It was pretty entertaining, put it that way, but when it comes to an actual story that you want to live up to, that you want to, like, imprint on a young child, say, hey, you be like this as you grow up. Like, I remember when I was younger, I would watch Aladdin a lot, over and over again. Aladdin is actually fairly decent, and maybe I'll go over that one too, because you have the hero story, and then you have the feminine, they act the roles out properly. This one is a bit different, and it sneaks up on you and it gets you unless you pay attention. There's value in allegory. So allegory is like extracting the meaning out of something instead of actually paying attention to the facts. So just because something is entertaining, does that mean it's good for you? Well, heroin feels pretty good. Is it good for you? Maybe short term because it makes you feel good, but not in the long term, obviously. Living your life in a perpetual heroin high has very negative consequences, as, well, you should know. If you don't know that, I mean, Google it. It takes you 3 seconds. Oh, that's better. So I'm going to go over the story briefly. One of the off comments I got is, hey, why don't you have pictures of the things you were reviewing while you review it? And the answer to that is, I only have an hour a day to do this, to edit it, to make a thumbnail, to promote it, think about the topics, write it down, articulate it. So I'm sorry. That's just how things are. I try to put some up there in the shorts. You'll have a little bit more video representation, but until then, you get to get used to my familiar face. If you'd rather have me talk about something else, cool. Let me know. Leave a comment down there. But we're going to rock out Frozen today. So it's like this. There's two little girls, one born with power, one with not. They play. They're princesses. The more outgoing one, Anna, the younger sister, gets hit in the head with a frozen blast, knocks her senseless. Her parents take them to the trolls, who are like magical rock creatures. They take away Anna's memories, basically undoing the magic because she doesn't know about it anymore. I think that's how that works. And then they separate their kids, not for their entire lives. And then they shut the doors of the castle for their entire lives. And then they go off somewhere and they just die. Like in a boat. And I'm like, oh my gosh. So that's the preface of the movie. And then after that, they grow up. The scene, it's like 15, 16 years later. I guess they're still adhering to their parents' wishes. And Elsa's old enough to take the crown. I guess someone was ruling in her place at some point, but you never get to really see that. I guess it's not important for the story. If you look at the authentic Frozen story dealing with Elsa, like the one that's historical, it's quite different from the one that Disney portrays. And that's fine. Creative liberty, man. You are trying to get people to watch what you're doing. So Anna falls in love with a guy that she just met, a prince. Luckily, it's a prince, not just, literally a pig on the street or something. And then Elsa is taking her crown, receiving her crown, has an argument with Anna about just marrying a guy she just met, loses control, ice goes everywhere, she flees to the mountains, creates an ice palace. Anna goes to rescue her. They meet Kristoff. I'm kind of sounding like Olaf at the moment. But if you've seen the movie, I guess this is just a general review. So anyway, they go back. Anna gets hit in the heart instead by Elsa this time. So the head and the heart are both struck by this magic, but the head forgets everything, so the heart just kind of feels it, so it's all about feeling. She goes back down because they figure out true love's kiss is the thing that can break this ice spell that's on her. I think they took her to the trolls there. So they go back to Hans, and Hans betrays her, and then Anna is almost dead, and Olaf saves her, and then Hans is about to kill Elsa and take her crown. And then Anna has a moment where she can choose between Kristoff and her sister. She chooses her sister, turns to ice, blocks the sword. Then true love's kiss, I guess, comes from comes from Elsa and Anna hugging, something like that, and then she's up and about, and Kristoff and Anna are not even engaged, they're just together, and Elsa takes a crown and she uses her powers for good. Boom. There you go. That's the movie. Why is that terrible specifically besides the way I just described it to you? Obviously, I have a bias. I have 2 young girls that are watching this stuff, and whatever you imprint on the culture of the next generation, you really got to be careful with and watch what you give to them, because those are the templates that build their existence, like how to act, especially before the age of 4. So if you're exposing them to that kind of social interaction, like this is how life should be led, you got to be really careful. It's like someone else reading a book to your kids and them just enjoying it and being enraptured, but not you, not the parent. So that's something you got to be careful of. So I did script this out because I wanted to point out why, at least in my opinion, Frozen 2 is like even worse exponentially. Maybe I just won't even get to that one because it makes me throw up in my mouth a little bit. So, first off, these characters have the worst parents ever. The cure to being struck by magic is to erase your memory. That's a bad idea. And then Anna's told to not hang out with her sister ever and given no reason why. That's terrible. You always answer the questions of your kids. You don't just leave them in the dark. And then Elsa is forced to go along with this, like, you will kill your sister. Imagine being told that your entire life. You could kill your sister without even trying if you just lose your temper once. And kids know how they are. My kids lose it when they don't get the proper utensil for their meal. It's like, imagine that kind of pressure on a kid. And then not only that, they shut them out from the outside world. They shut the castle down. So all this is on Elsa. And one thing you can learn from Sleeping Beauty is you invite Maleficent, you invite the Dark Fairy, you invite outside influences in, especially when they're children and you're there to protect them. Because if they're not exposed to the outside world, well, that's Buddha being shell-shocked. He doesn't like the karmic cycle and death because he hasn't seen it literally his entire life. So when it happens, he's just like, I want out. Nope, no thanks. I seek oblivion rather than the karmic cycle. Same thing here. How are they supposed to adapt to adversity if you have the entire castle shut, don't allow neighboring kingdoms in, and they can't talk to each other? They can't even build up family relationships? Like, who the heck taught them how to parent? It's just so weird. But the biblical analogy kind of is like Elsa has a darkness in her, and that's, you can say that's roughly original sin. But relationship is not cut off. Like, at that point when man had sinned, I'm shaking the table too much, and when man had sinned in the garden, God didn't say, all right, you and Eve can't talk to each other from now on. Like, you know what I mean? Like, no, we need relationship. And Anna's kept in, like, ignorant naivety, on par with Sleeping Beauty. So there's a part in Sleeping Beauty where they don't want her to prick her finger on the spindle of a spinning wheel and die. So the king and the queen send their daughter way out in the middle of nowhere, where the animals literally sing to her. And, like, everything's so pleasant, and she's dancing, and she meets Prince Charming and falls in love with him right away. That sounds familiar, by the way, doesn't it? But she doesn't know how to deal with adversity. She doesn't know how to not be tricked. She doesn't know what happens if people lie to her. Everybody tells the truth all the time. Wow, that's pretty much a paradise, but that's not reality. And you'll meet somebody like that at some point in your life. So Anna's kept in ignorance. Literally had her brain changed by the magical trolls, which are interesting. They're like live bits of rock. So all she has left in her, they took her reason. Maybe she can't trust it, or part of it's gone at the very least. So all she has is her heart. So she follows her heart. She's a very outgoing, impulsive individual. The only father figure that Elsa is given, because Anna eventually kind of reaches for some, is her tyrannical father. The one that says, don't you keep it secret, you keep it safe. Like, it's his voice mostly. Their mother loves them. She does, sure. But that's a dad's job to put the boundaries on and say where your boundaries exactly are. Hers were like, you go in your room, clothe yourself head to toe. Don't talk to anybody, especially your sister. Like, who? I cannot imagine this. I really cannot. So that's a dark place, dude. So obviously, Elsa's character cannot see the masculine. Like, she can't. Like, she doesn't even look for a mate. Then you could see, just because she knows the darkness within her, she wouldn't even accept it. She would say, I'm just not worthy. And she's on another plane anyway. She's tied to the magic and the unknown. Total chaos right there. The thing about, I think, altering Anna's mind is she has no temperance of her heart. her heart is just allowed to run free in the castle. She could basically, you don't see any scenes with her with a tutor or anything. She could just run free whenever, and finally, when the castle opens, she is just like pent up energy. She explodes out, falls in love with the first prince that happens to sing sweetly to her. Boom, they want to get married right away. She does not know right from wrong. They were just kept in ignorance the entire time. They didn't read or anything. Like, it's very weird. But perhaps I'm putting too much into it, because Anna and Elsa tend to have like some sort of a relationship anyway. They talk to each other as if they could both talk to each other, not like you've been locked in your room for 10 plus years. But it's amazing, the uniting factor that brings them together is their parents dying. And that had to happen, dude. Like, that tyrannical reign of them being shut in, they're basically children in adult bodies now. The one is just so scared from childhood trauma she can't do anything. For heaven forbid she plays with her sister, she might kill her. And the other one doesn't know how to navigate her way through the world. Everything's a paradise around her. She doesn't know that there are thorns out there and people that will just deceive you. And because Elsa has no creative element in her, she's strictly by the book. When things violate those boundaries and things push her a little too much, it's like she literally explodes. That's the power that's within her. And so she's pushed a little bit too far during the coronation ceremony, because Anna wants to do what Anna wants to do. But Elsa, she's not the masculine part in this relationship. She's the controlled feminine. She's like feminine being boxed in, but she just happens to explode. Later, Anna, when the doors of the castle are open, she just went nuts. But she's seeking something. She's seeking after something. Elsa doesn't even know what direction to aim, besides just being queen. That's her duty. That's the only duty she has, and the only aim she has. That's not within Anna's grasp. So she has to aim for something else. She chooses an alternative. The other thing about impulsivity is when Anna finally meets Kristoff, who is, I guess, the best masculine character in the movie, but even he's kind of terrible and weak-willed, and who knows how the heck he was brought up. When he chases her, she has no idea what that looks like, because she's the one doing the chasing. But that's like the roles are reversed. The masculine is supposed to see and deem beauty, and then contain it, not in the sense you keep it stifled, but you just, you build a house around it. You protect it in the proper way, right? Not rigid, you can never go out of here, but like, here's our safe spot. I'm building a safe spot for you, that kind of thing. And you tend to the walls of the garden, because there's a difference between the garden on the inside and the jungle on the out. And then within, that's the beauty. You call and you act as if your mate is beautiful. And that's how you recognize it. But if you're just constantly pursuing, which Anna was, she couldn't even recognize that, even if she was taking the masculine role. There's a couple other things, and these are kind of back and forth, up and down, but if you've seen the movie, which I hope you have, and if you haven't, well, maybe don't, or you can see it and maybe see if I'm correct in what I'm deducing from it. But it's also like Anna doesn't have any kind of definition of what love is. Actually, most of us don't. What is love? Baby, don't hurt me, right? Love is, people think love is the impulse that you follow, but that's not it. Love is also a duty. Love is sacrifice. Love is doing things even though you don't want to. Love is fulfilling your role. And the Greeks have 4 words for love: agape, storge, phileo, and eros. Usually people think eros is it. That's it. That's the agency. That's the compulsion. But that's not it. There's different types of love. And different aims you can go to. Kristoff doesn't even know what love is either. He just kind of, when Anna falls from the rock, he catches her. And then he's enchanted by her because he sees her beauty up close. That's like the first time he sees it. Toward the end of the movie, when they say true love's kiss will cure Anna, like the thing that gets shot into her heart will cure her being, there's a choice. She's like, it's in the frozen lake, and she sees her sister over there about to be hit, and then she sees Kristoff calling to her, saying, "Here, come this way." That's obviously a choice. She chooses her family bond of love, even though her sister rejected her so many times and literally destroyed her body with her power, instead of future potential. And you can say, okay, well, you know what? That was the immediate need, and I can understand that, sure. The allegory you can grab out of that, it's a little bit meaningful. But then after that, true love's kiss, so that's, again, a different type of love. It's the bond of, it's like sibling bond. That's roughly agape. It's like the outside love. It's like the duty part of love. Like, I will honor this person that separated herself from me for 15 years or whatever it was, and wouldn't talk to me and said no to every one of my demands. I'll honor her. Like, yeah, okay, another bad decision. So all in all, when you look at the story in its whole, well, the Elsa character from like start to finish, she loses control, and what she does is she runs from her responsibility. She runs from being a queen. She runs from her duty, and that's seen as being freeing, running from your responsibility. And the thing about the movie is she doesn't really have any consequence. There's no permanent consequence from her running from her responsibility. That just blows my mind, man. Imagine if I would just be like, sorry, wife, I don't feel like working anymore. I feel like being free. Like, no, that's a terrible lesson, especially to tell young ladies. And young men, obviously, or just men and women in general. But that's the template you build on these movies that are pitched to kids. They take those patterns and they kind of spiral up and out, and they gain power and momentum in culture, because these things are shown to millions of kids in this culture. And so they have some sort of a power or spirit that goes along with them. They really do. And if you're showing that message that, hey, you can just be free whenever, no consequence, go on back to your duties, don't worry, your sister will save you. But all in all, I don't think any of the characters, besides Olaf, were really inspiring. You have Kristoff, who can recognize the feminine beauty but does not pursue her, at least not in the proper sense. His parents were rocks, so he obviously didn't have a model maybe on how to pursue and take care of the next generation. He's best friends with reindeer. Got Anna, who follows her heart against all reason, and they show you why, because they altered her memory to make sure that she wouldn't be affected by, in a magical sense. And she values the image of her sister from, I guess, the youth, which was programmed into her brain, as opposed to the relationship going forward, and they didn't even build one. But the thing about the head and the heart, that dichotomy inside of a person, it's almost on par with the known and the unknown. You and I, and this is how deep it goes philosophically, but even in just being itself, we are flesh, and that's our material. Then we're also abstract, and so that's like the electronical impulses and chemical things that make us move, and we will that, and that's the mixture of the two. This is the known, what we know, and this out here is the unknown, and we can manipulate that. We can see it and perceive it due to light and that kind of thing. But we're a mixture of the two. So if you destroy the known, the unknown remains, and that's chaos. I thought that was actually a fitting kind of model for Anna, because they took her head out, basically. And then again, Elsa, who's a character that, she could just be free and do whatever you want, follow your heart, reject all totalitarian pressure, which is correct. You should do that. There has to be some flexibility. But the movie ends with a denial of life and a denial of the masculine. The duty of the queen usually is to have an heir. You can say, yeah, it's good that women don't always have to have kids, like in every other Disney movie. Well, how many thousands of generations have come before you and me? And that's the proper order of things. And to get here and to listen to this, our parents, all the way back, thousands of generations, had to have reproduced properly and had healthy children, and they're all wrong. You know what I mean? We should live for the now and live for whatever we think we should aim for. Like, that's just such a weird message to me. When you gain so much maturity and growth by having a family, I mean, ask people who try to have one and can't. It is rough on them if they can't have kids. That's a totally different heartache that I have not been exposed to, but I pray for people like that. That's one heck of a way to grow up, man. Is to have somebody that's literally 100% dependent upon you, and you want to help them. That is so cool. Where else in the paradigm of story do we have that we can enact it, that we can feel it? That little life that's like this tiny, not my little fuzzball cap, but an actual human consciousness. It's really, really mind-blowing. It really is. The moral of the movie, and I actually wrote this down for myself to make sure I didn't miss it. The moral of the movie: if you follow your heart and are sincere, you will get what you want beyond reason. And then I put a question at the end. Should this be used in reality? Well, obviously not. So how should the story go? They worked hard, they fought the dragon, they lived happily ever after, or they did whatever they wanted to, and they lived happily ever after. So that's me roughly articulating why I think Frozen is a very terrible movie as far as moral virtue goes and trying to pass on good messages to the next generation. It's entertaining, sure. Be careful how much your kids watching on repeat, and what kind of message are we sending to the rest of the world with stuff like that. So I think that'll do it for this one. Once again, thanks for watching. Click the like button, subscribe to see more in the future. Recommendations below, I'd appreciate it. I'm probably going to do more hype movies because it is roughly a direct scrutiny of culture to go to the ones that are more popular. So, anyway, I'll see you next time. Take care.